Joining us now, Vice Chair at the Center for Election Integrity and former Trump campaign National Press Secretary Hogan Gidley, Senior Research Analyst for FDD's China program Jack Burnham, and NewsNation political contributor and aggressive progressive podcast host Chris Hahn. Gentlemen, great to see you tonight. Thanks so much for being here. So, Jack, let's start with you. I mean, the FBI has tried to explain this today, but how wide-reaching are the CCP's cyber espionage operations in the U.S., and what effect does the latest action have on China's abilities, if any?
Thank you for having me. I think the way I would classify this is to think of it as one is multiple campaigns in what China is attempting to do. In the military, there's a term, an operational preparation of the battlefield. I think here we see in cyberspace China attempting an operational preparation of the battlefield of these hacking operations, whether it be the one revealed today by the FBI or others revealed previously, Salt Typhoon and Vault Typhoon, of gaining and maintaining access to critical infrastructure, whether that be water, government systems, or others, maintaining access that it can be used to either perpetuate sabotage or espionage in the event of a potential crisis between Washington and Beijing.
So, Hogan, I mean, this is so wide-reaching, and you think about how much China has influence in the things that we buy off of Amazon, how many people have a doorbell camera, use things like Amazon Alexa, that kind of thing, that kind of technology that China seems to be infiltrating. And, of course, they're not just targeting military targets. They're targeting voter and public utilities, trying to get inside of our homes. Is this a threat that you think that Congress and the American people truly understand and know how to combat?
I don't know that they fully grasp the depth and breadth of this enemy that continues to attack our American infrastructure, continues to try and hack our systems. It's just so wide-reaching. And when you see this latest report that it's state-sponsored, when you see the decade-long attempts here, when you see exactly the target, these are the ones we know about, by the way. Who knows how deep they are into our AI systems and trying to get our property there, steal that, use that, because we're leading the world with AI. It is terrifying to me to think what China is trying to do. And quite frankly, we've got a reciprocal meeting coming up with Donald Trump and President Xi in September, late September. I wonder if this is going to affect anything. And when you, just for a second, also go back in time, COVID, for heaven's sakes. I mean, this is our largest and most dangerous geopolitical foe. I don't know that everyone quite grasps that.
Yeah, we've been in a Cold War with China in a lot of ways for a very long time. They certainly are waging one against us. Chris, in terms of what the federal government can do, especially in the executive branch, President Trump signed an executive order to ban some foreign energy equipment that leaves us vulnerable to cyber sabotage. They try to make sure that parts from China are not going into our warfighting machines at the Department of War. It seems like as a country we should be bipartisan about this, and these precautions should have been taken before. But now that the president has done this, do you think that's a good thing to combat China?
Well, I do think that we should be unified in combating our global adversaries, whether it's Trump proposing it, Biden proposing it, or a member of Congress proposing it. Obviously, we have to make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. And I think that when the president meets with Xi Jinping next month, I think he should hold him accountable for these attacks and make it very clear that the United States will not tolerate these attacks. And I think that we should all be unified behind that statement.
So, Jack, in terms of, the warfare that we're seeing from China waged against us, of course, it's different than it used to be. They can send in a virus and shut down power systems. They can, launch these cyber attacks against our water in cities across the country. How vulnerable, from your perspective, is the current electrical grid, these water systems that are not run by the federal government? They're run by local affiliates. Ports, transportation systems, everything is controlled now by the internet. And it seems like that's an easy way in.
I think you hit on something really important, and that's that the federal government may have the responsibility of national security, but it often isn't the owner-operator of the systems that it relies on. It doesn't run the electrical grid. It doesn't run the port infrastructure. It doesn't run the things that it needs in order to uphold its national security mission. And I think that's a place where the federal government certainly has a lot more work to do in working with those private sector owner-operators in a much more coordinated fashion to have that defense, whether that be particularly, as the President Trump noted today, around water systems, of what can the federal government do to work with some of these smaller local owner-operators that by themselves can't necessarily afford some of the cyber defenses that they may need when they're targeted by an adversary like Iran or by China. And so I think really sorting out what that public-private partnership will look like going forward really needs to be a key both administrative and congressional priority going forward.
So Hogan, I mean, we get emails not to click on links. We get some education from our employers about, phishing, that kind of thing. But when it comes to adversaries like Iran, Russia, North Korea, even China engaging in cyber espionage, do we need a nationwide education program about how to try and defend yourself on the individual level from this kind of attack?
That's a great idea. One of the most blood-chilling moments of the administration in the first term for Donald Trump, I was across the table from President Xi of China in these conversations and negotiations, and it was just, quite frankly, terrifying because the people on our side of the table realized what was going on, what they were trying to accomplish here. But at the same time, the preparation it took to go into those meetings, to know how they would be spying on you while you were there, what they were going to do to your phones, how to treat your devices and those types of things. I don't think the American people have a clue as to how deep and dark the design of China is to try and infiltrate our everyday lives and take us down. And the more information we have and the more we can prepare to prevent those types of things, I think the better off we'll be. A national campaign would be amazing.
So, Chris, we got to run. But in terms of what Democratic states also can do to work with the federal government, there's a lot of state infrastructure as well that is constantly attacked by China. It seems like everybody should get on board with working to combat this in ways that they can.
Yeah, look, I think every institution, every state, every large company at least, has a plan for cyber attacks. I do think that there needs to be some more direction from the federal government. I think that we all need to be on guard for it because this is what warfare is going to look like going forward. And the Chinese are very keen to do this. They've been doing it. They will continue to do it. And we've got to be on guard for it.
Well, if it's in all of our phones in certain ways or in our electronics, it seems like we got a lot of work to do. So we'll see what happens. Hogan Gidley, Chris Hahn, and Jack Burnham, thank you for joining me. Great to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.